Welcome to the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks Show, a series designed to give you insight into the world of self-publishing and marketing your books. Featuring your hosts, Shannon, the author behind the pen name S.C. Huston, Ben Pick, and Morgan Lee. Join us several times each month when we interview authors about their self-publishing and marketing journeys, talk to industry leaders, and discuss books about writing, self-publishing, and marketing. Also, stay tuned for the best self-publishing tip or trick of the week.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Pick, and today we're speaking with romance author Emma Bennet. Before we talk to her, let's give some updates on what's happening in our lives and our writing careers. While this episode will come out in February, we are recording it way back in November 2023, so some of our news might be old or our predictions outdated.
Yeah, so for me, my plan right now, as we are in November recording this, is to have book 3 of my trilogy probably set to release in March. That is the hope that I still have at this current time of recording, to get that third book out and complete the series. So that is what I have coming up. And I'm also planning different things on my channel. So hopefully as you're watching this, there are some new videos and content on my channel for you all to enjoy. So that's all I have really going on.
Yay. So I can't remember what date exactly this is coming out, the 1st or the 15th, but it is coming out in February, which my book, A Curse of Scales and Feathers, should now be coming out. I thought I'd have it come out January 16th or so, somewhere around there, because that's right after I come back off my break. But after listening to a book marketing company, I watched a webinar like a week and a half ago, and he was saying that Amazon is behind in their algorithm. So right now, like if you publish a book right now, it will take up to 69 hours before you will hit any type of ranking. So you could be doing sales and stuff and promotions and paying for book promotions, and you're not going to see anything from it for over 69 hours. And they're saying that what they're seeing is that started with the Amazon Prime days back in October the 19th, 18th, and 19th. And they said it's just getting worse because now we're heading into holiday season and Black Friday's coming up. And they said, so now they've decided as a book marketing company, they're no longer, and they work directly with authors, they're no longer doing any book releases through November through end of January because of that, and I thought, oh, well, maybe it might not be a good idea to publish my book mid-January, maybe end of January might be better. So I'm kind of, and it would be good timing because it is a fantasy romance plot first. So coming out close to February, month of love, right? So it kind of fit for me. I will be on my YouTube channel. I plan to, if it works out right, and it should be happening hopefully, is that I would like to have every day or pretty much every day in February, I'd like to bring on a fantasy romance author to talk about fantasy romance writing. So that's kind of my goal. I'm starting to reach out to authors here in the next week in November to see if I can get this plan off the ground. Oh, and I'm Shannon, writing on the pen name of S.C. Huston. I did not say that.
I didn't introduce myself either.
Okay. That's Morgan.
And I'm Ben Pick, host of Writing to Write. Other than that, I also, by February, will hopefully have my manuscript ready to go. It might be in the final week of the final editor. And then in theory, I can put it out as soon as I make those changes. So I'm looking to publish, I guess, kind of delaying that a little bit. I'm going to try and make it a con exclusive for one of the cons I'm going to. I'm either going for Balticon or AwesomeCon. AwesomeCon is in March. Balticon is May. So I might just be sitting on my book for a little bit and start working on the next one, I guess.
So you said you're gonna make it exclusive for publication for during those cons?
Sorry. Yes. I'm going to make it exclusive during those cons, and then after that, I'll just be published whenever. So I'm going to decide probably by the time this comes out when I want to do it, when I want to publish it, and which con I want to have it as an exclusive for.
Okay. And have you thought about doing just like an exclusive publication just for the cons? Like you can still publish your book, but do something specific?
I could definitely do that. I think that, I'll have the time to plan for it, but I don't know what I would really do to change it unless I make like a little unique thing on the cover or something along those lines.
Or an extra chapter from an alternate point of view or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, like a special edition cover or like an additional scene or something.
Yeah.
So
cool.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be a really good idea.
And then you could turn around and sell that on your website. I don't know, just ideas.
No, those are great marketing tools. You are very good there, considering all the bonuses you've incorporated into your Kickstarter. So I'm really glad to get your insight. Now, Emma grew up. Our guest is Emma Bennet, and she grew up and lived in London before falling in love and moving to Wales to marry her own hero. Emma lives with her husband and 4 children in a small Welsh market town. She's often found in rivers attempting to control 2 overexcited chocolate labs. Emma can be found on YouTube, where she offers tips and tricks for writers, as well as book recommendations, author life vlogs, and live writing sprints. Emma likes, in no particular order, cakes, books, Cary Grant films, Prosecco, chocolate, guinea pigs, knitting, quilting, and happily ever afters. Welcome, Emma. Would you please take a moment to tell us a little bit? Would you please take a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself and anything we might have missed?
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on the show. I am Emma Bennet, as Ben said. I'm a UK-based writer. I generally write contemporary romance, but I have been writing a Regency romance as well. I also write children's picture books, non-fiction for writers as of last month, and I'm a freelance developmental editor and a writing coach, and my YouTube channel has been going for about a year and a half now, and I'm sure that everything is linked in the show notes, description, whatever.
Wonderful. Well, rewinding the clock on all of those incredible author-related successes from your various genres that you write into your helpful blogging and nonfiction, the suggestions, we'll get to it a little bit more, the advice you give within your books. Where did all this writing start?
It started off, I think probably about 18 years ago was when I first started writing anything, maybe 19 years ago, actually. And I started writing some children's picture books for my son. But it's really, really hard to get picture books published. Really, really, really hard. And I'd written a few stories, and that was great. I enjoyed that. And then I had an idea for my first romance called The Green Hills of Home. And yeah, so that was the first kind of full-length book that I wrote.
So speaking of that first book, can you tell us about the journey to publishing your first book? And was it a self-published book, or was that one traditionally published?
So it was self-published to begin with. I finished the manuscript, and I did actually send it out to a very big publisher of romantic fiction, and they liked it, and I had some great feedback. But I was the Jon Snow of publishing. Okay, I knew nothing whatsoever. So now I know that this particular publisher never would take it on, because there are certain things in that book which don't fit with kind of the little rules that they have for their series. So they were really, really nice, like I say, and gave lots of feedback. And they also suggested that I change a lot, but I wasn't really happy with that. So I thought, well, why don't I try self-publishing? And so that is what I did 10 years ago.
All right, Jon Snow. So can you tell us about your publishing career? Because it has taken many different turns. As you said, you self-published that one first, but then you moved into traditional publishing. You're now hybrid. So can you talk a little bit about that journey and where you are today?
Yeah, it's a mess, basically. It's a big mess. So I bought out The Green Hills of Home. I got some nice reviews and things. And I sold copies. It wasn't crazy, but I sold copies. And then I wrote a second book, which I had originally called The Spaniard's Secret Daughter, I think. And I sent that off to a publisher that I'd heard good things about from another author. And they offered me a publishing contract for that, but they also wanted The Green Hills of Home as well. So then The Green Hills of Home became traditionally published. And so then after that, I had one more book out with them and a couple of novellas. But at that point, I became ill. I had a vertigo problem, a problem with my ear, and I couldn't really write for a couple of years. And so I left my publisher because I just felt bad. I wasn't able to produce the work that I said that I was going to be able to produce. I couldn't hit the deadlines. Nothing was going on with my books because obviously they were quite old, and there's only going to be so much money that the publishers are going to throw at the books after that amount of time. So I kind of stepped back, took everything off the table until I was better again, at which point I decided to self-publish all of the books that I'd had out with that publisher, along with a new book called Starstruck. And then my book after that, I sent off to a publisher. They took on that book, but again, they said that they wanted my backlist. So then all of those books were taken off. Well, not the novellas. The novellas were still self-published, but the full-length novels were once again taken off self-published and were traditionally published. And yeah, I've just had a book out last week called A Christmas Truce, which is my latest book with that publisher. And I've got 3 more books under contract for next year with them as well. And like I say, I've got a children's picture book that I've self-published as well. And then as of last month, 2 books, which are non-fiction books or writers.
And that's self-published, those nonfiction books.
Published, yeah.
With your first self-published book, how did you make the decision to self-publish versus traditionally publish?
A lot of it was to do with not really being sure where to send the book and what the market was for that book. I suspected there was a market for it. I had written it to market to a certain extent, reading a lot of other contemporary romances, making it the right length, following the story arc, making sure that I kept to certain rules of the genre, if you like, but I wasn't sure where else to send it. And also got 4 children who were much, much younger at that point, taking up a lot of my time. And I didn't want to spend a year sending off to agents and to publishers to get rejected and then send it off. I wanted the book out there. It was done. And I wanted people to be able to read it if they wanted to, and to be able to have that wonderful feeling of holding your own book in your hands.
Yeah, that is a great feeling. It's an amazing feeling that never gets old, no matter how many times you publish. So publishing traditionally as a self-published author is something that I'm interested in. So I would love to hear what your pros and cons are when it comes to publishing your work with the various routes to publishing with the 2 different platforms.
Sure. I think it comes as a big change if you are used to self-publishing and then you're handing over control of, one of your babies to a publisher. I think it's much, much harder for somebody who has been self-published, and it really does depend on the publisher itself. That's the big difference. I've had offers of contracts from 3 different publishers, which I turned down because the things that they were offering were either unfair or just completely unreasonable. I had one publisher who wanted to publish one of my books, but expected me to then unpublish all the rest of them and not to do anything with them, basically. So I would just be sitting on 6 books without making any money from them whatsoever that, were actually at that point on Amazon kind of ticking away. So you've got to be so careful with reading the contracts and be really annoying. If there's something that you don't know what it means, ask them, and ask them in an email so that you've got it in writing. For example, my publisher, who are absolutely brilliant, but one of their clauses in their email is that I need to offer them first refusal for any contemporary romance that I write. Now, I didn't want to necessarily be locked in with them basically forever, because with each new contract, I'm being offered that. So how do I get out of this contract? But it was only when I spoke to them, they said, oh, no, that just means that you need to offer it to us. You are under no obligation whatsoever to accept that offer. If you don't like what we're offering, you can just walk away and you can take it to someone else. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't ask. And I've got that in writing in an email as well. So if there ever was a problem, although I can't imagine that there ever would be, I've got some comeback on that. We all know how hard self-publishing is. It's wonderful. It is absolutely brilliant to have such control over your book, to, even if you don't design the cover yourself, but to tweak it and to get it exactly how you want, to have the wording of your book exactly as you want. Because, an editor might come in if you're published and say, oh, I don't like this paragraph because blah, blah, blah. And they might be right as an editor, but as a writer, sometimes it's really, really hard to let go of that paragraph because you really like it, And of course, with self-publishing, you can do that. You can do whatever you like. You can do Kickstarters. You can be much, much more inventive. You can get coloring books coming out like Shannon has and things like that. You can really use your imagination. And I think the readers that you get through self-publishing are loyal. They are so loyal because it's almost like they know how much effort that you have put into producing the whole book for them, not just writing it, but also producing the whole object. So you do get very, very loyal readers, but finding those loyal readers is really hard. Being traditionally published, in many ways, it is just so much easier. You hand over your manuscript, you get your edits back, you do that, and then you're sent. I'm sent my cover designs, and I get to give them the okay. If there's something that I don't like, then they will tweak things for me and things, but they write my blurb for me, and it's just so much easier. It really, really is. Come release day, I'm not spending the whole day as you are. If you're self-publishing, you are spending the whole day, actually probably weeks leading up to and afterwards, setting up promos and social media posts and interviews and stuff like that. I don't need to do any of that because much of it is done for me, including, amazing things like amazing promos and things on these big sites that, there's no way that I'd be able to afford that for my self-published books, even if I really, really wanted to.
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely a big benefit to being traditionally published, is to get that marketing power behind you if they're willing to do that. Because we've heard from some tribe-published authors here who said that they didn't have a whole lot that was done for them, or that they were expected to do a whole lot themselves on top of but it would be so nice to be able to, like, you know what, I'm tired, I'm not gonna worry about it today, versus where you're self-published, you're like, I'm tired, I don't want to do it today. Oh, well, there goes some money. So
you've got to.
And I've never heard what you said about where you feel like self-published authors have more loyal fans, but that does make sense. And I would probably add in there, it's probably true because as a trad published author, you have that middleman between you and the reader in a lot of cases, depending on how you're on social media. If you're on social media yourself and you're doing your own, you probably have a platform where you're connecting with your readers. But not all traditionally published authors, not even all self-published authors, have social media platforms. But if you are connecting like through the newsletter or whatever, maybe it seems like a less of a barrier between you and the reader. I don't know. I have to think that one over a little bit to know if that one was true or not. But I do think that's interesting. So what's one misconception you had about self-publishing before you actually published your work? And I know you said you were Jon Snow, so maybe you didn't have any misconceptions, but
my major misconception was a weird one, and it was before I self-published. Actually, no, even when I'd done a few books self-published, that it was really, really hard, and that it was something that I couldn't do, and that it required too many skills that I didn't have, and there were just so many aspects of it that I wouldn't be able to do. So I am a developmental editor. I also can very well cope with copy edits, line edits, whatever. I just choose not to because I don't like them. So I'm perfectly capable of editing my own book. I wasn't too worried about that, although we all know how hard it is to edit your own work, right? I did have, instead of a receiver that somebody was picking up, like a telephone receiver, I had a retriever, like a dog, in my first book. From, we all miss things, but it was the formatting and the covers and things like that I just thought, there's no way, I can't do this, and I'm not in a position to spend hundreds or thousands of pounds getting experts to do it. Luckily, I have a very, very handy husband who is annoyingly good at everything. There is nothing that this man can't do, and he did the covers for me and the formatting and everything like that. What was really lovely about bringing out my latest two books, the nonfiction ones for writers, is that I did the covers myself, and I was so proud of myself. I sent them out to some people to kind of get their feedback, and they'd say, oh, move this up, move this down, oh, that needs to be bright or whatever. But I did that whole thing myself, and I think that was a big barrier for me with self-publishing and going through that. And I was like, I can do that. I still got a friend to do the formatting for me, but I did the cover myself, and I was really, really proud of myself at that.
Yeah, I definitely sympathize with the reviewing your own work, because I'm going through some of the editor's comments, and there's definitely a few times where there are here's that should be hers. And I swear I made those changes before I sent it out, but apparently I was wrong. Anyways, you recently moved into publishing nonfiction, which you self-published. Can you tell us a little bit more about your new books and your inspirations behind them?
Yeah, so both of them inspired by the same thing, and that was viewers on my YouTube channel asking me to write them. So I did a social media kind of challenge for the first half of this year, which I'm going to be completing next year, where each month I took one social media platform and basically just saw what I could do to improve my reach on them, to improve my general experience, and hopefully even get some book sales. And the one which seemed to resonate with people the most was Twitter, or X as it's now known. I think people are very, very confused about how to use that platform, especially with all the changes that have gone on. So I had several people saying to me, the advice you're giving is really good. Can you write a book on it? So that I've got it all together. So me being me, I agree to stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'll write a book. That's no problem. And again, the NaNoWriMo book, which came out just at the beginning of October, that came from me doing an awful lot of research into NaNoWriMo, because when I was going to start NaNoWriMo for the first time last year, I was really, really nervous. And so I read, watched, I just found out everything that I could about how to win NaNoWriMo to try to set myself up for success. And while I was sharing some of these tips in my vlogs and in other videos, people were saying to me, can you collect these tips together? Can you make this into a book? So So for Camp Nano, I wrote those books and was able to bring them out last month.
Nice. So did you find that self-publishing your nonfiction books to be different from publishing your other works?
It was much, much easier in a way because of the amazing supportive community that I'm now part of. Because when I first started out 10 years ago, I didn't really know any other writers at all. I certainly didn't know people who were doing self-publishing and who were doing their own formatting and covers and things like that, who could offer advice. There wasn't what we have now. There weren't the different options of the different apps and the websites and things that you can use to help you. You know, the amazing Canva that I think we all love wasn't a thing then. So yeah, in a way, it was just much, much easier because I had so much help available if I needed it. I could reach out to lots of different people with so many different skills and say, okay, how do I do this? Because I don't know. And I need you to just tell me in the simplest way possible how to do this. So that was really lovely.
So thinking back to when you were saying your first romance book that you wrote and you sent it out and you didn't know like some of the things that they were looking for, I'm sure now that you have some great tips that you can share. So for your fiction, you write contemporary romance. What are some of those tips for writers that who want to write it and publish in contemporary romance that you can share with us?
So the things that I particularly learned about the publishing from when I was first sending out my first manuscript were particularly in relation to companies like Mills and Boon and Harlequin Romance, because they have series that they bring out. They obviously have certain lengths of books, which I knew about, but I didn't know that they also had rules about the fact that the protagonists need to be together as much as possible in the book. So things like that you can't have the hero and heroine apart for a couple of chapters. You can maybe do it for a chapter, but they kind of have to be thinking about each other. But it's very, very intense between the two main characters is the best way I can put it. And it's important to carry that throughout the book and to also introduce them to each other as early as possible, which is something that I didn't do. So it was stuff like that, which is particularly applicable to that kind of publishing as opposed to contemporary romance as a whole. Knowing what I know now for contemporary romance, I would very much say the same as I would to anybody wanting to write any genre, and that is just to read as much as you possibly can in the genre that you are writing. But particularly if you want to be traditionally published, particularly read the books that are selling in that genre. Write whatever you want. I strongly believe that everybody should write whatever they want. Yeah, in whatever genre you want, mix up the genres, do whatever you like. But if you want to be traditionally published in a certain genre, then there are rules that you need to follow. It's important that you know those rules and that you know what sells and what the publishing houses are going to want.
When I was doing research and reading in my genre for fantasy romance before I wrote my first fantasy romance book, I do remember reading that, and I don't think it was actually particular. I think it was just about romance altogether. I heard those same two things. Mm-hmm. Introduce them as soon as possible. That meet cute needs to happen quickly. And if they're not in the same scene together, then they need to be thinking about the other person. So I tried as much as possible to do that. The whole meet cute thing, that was a little bit harder because I was setting up the fantasy line. And I was like, I think my meet cute comes too late. And I kept thinking that cute. But all my readers, they all said they didn't point it out saying anything about it was too late. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go with this.
Yeah, I'd like personally, I think that it can be fine. It depends on the romance. Sometimes they meet straight away. Sometimes they meet a little bit later. Like in my book, Her Sister's Baby, which is being republished next year, the hero and heroine don't meet for the first 2 chapters, I think it is. And there's not even any mention. It's told from the heroine's point of view, and there is no mention of the hero at all because her sister has just died in a car crash, and that's what she's dealing with. She doesn't know anything about the hero's existence. It turns out that he is the father of her sister's baby that the heroine didn't know about. So she had no idea that this guy even exists until he turns up on her doorstep, like the day after she's been given this baby. And I think it works really, really well for that, but it would not be taken on by one of those particular publishers.
If you could pass on one thing to aspiring self-published writers, what's your best self-publishing tip or trick?
I think just to read and write as much as you possibly can. I think people get very caught up in perfectionism and trying to learn everything. And it's great to read craft books. It is, and that is part of reading. But when I say read a lot, what I mean is read a lot of everything, not just your genre, but whatever you enjoy, just read it, take in as much as you possibly can, and write whenever you can as well. Don't overthink it and have to get get it perfect and keep fiddling with the first chapter so that you never actually move on to finish the book, because we all know how hard it is to finish a book. It's a ridiculously low percentage of manuscripts that actually get completed, because it's really easy to open up a blank folder or a blank file, however you're going to do it, and begin writing. But to continue and to actually get to the end, that's the hard bit.
So we're going to transition a little bit away from publishing to marketing, something that I always love to hear tips on. So what marketing do you do for your books? And is this different between traditionally published works and your self-published ones?
Yeah, so it's really, really different in many ways. So with my self-published books, it's actually very different between my romances and the non-fiction books as well. With the romances, when I was self-publishing them, I tried out all kinds of marketing things. I tried Facebook ads, I tried Amazon ads, as we all do. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. Building an organic audience, I think, is really, really important, and that does take time, frustratingly long time sometimes, but those are the people who are going to end up being your real fans. With my non-fiction books, I made a very conscious decision that I wasn't going to spend money on marketing for them. The reason for this was that I wrote them for a very particular set of people who asked me to write them. I'm very aware that those books are never going to sell a million copies each. That's not why I wrote them. I wrote them because people asked me to, and I thought it would be a fun challenge because I'd never written anything like that before. And hopefully the people who asked me to write them, I believe most of them have bought them and read them, and that they have been useful to them. But yeah, they're never going to sell a million copies. It's not worth me spending hundreds of pounds on a cover designer and on various ads everywhere. And I think it is important to be aware of that when you're bringing out a book, not to let the costs spiral out of control if it's not reasonable that you're going to make those costs back. There are certain genres that will sell very well, that are hugely popular, especially in self-publishing, like romance, like fantasy, like erotica. Those books are probably going to sell well if they've got some money put behind them so that people actually see them. With my traditionally published books, my publishers do a huge amount for me. Now, that isn't the case with every publisher. I know, Shannon said earlier, there are a lot of authors who basically still have to do everything themselves. My publishers even provided me with a book trailer that they made for me. They provide me with various graphics and things, which they send over before, like a week before my book's coming out. They organize art copies being sent out to various reviewers and put on Net Gallery, for example. They do so much. So while I will still do some marketing, I'll talk about my books in my videos. I will obviously announce that it's release day. I'll do kind of a cover reveal. It's nowhere near the same amount of work that I need to do. If I miss a day, if I don't post about them, it's fine, basically.
I think that's interesting what you say too about your conscious plan when it came to your nonfiction, because I've been writing a nonfiction book I'm hoping to publish next year, and I've already come to like the decision I'm probably not gonna put marketing dollars into it. I don't really have like an audience who's like, write this book. I don't think anyone's really doing that, but I think it's gonna be helpful for like the topic. The topic is something that a lot of people have asked me about, which is just building your newsletter list. So and it hasn't taken me very long to write it. I just had to sit down and finish it. But I think I wrote the most of it in 2 days. Just sitting down, it was like 18,000 words altogether. But and nonfiction books are also much shorter, so you don't have a lot of words in there. But yeah, I think I'm probably gonna be on cover, and of course I do my own formatting already for the interior. So yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I was wondering if I was thinking the wrong thing by not thinking about putting any marketing dollars behind that book.
I think you do actually need to think about the financial return that you're going to get and whether or not it's worth it. We all want to see our books looking beautiful and in print, but I think there are ways that we can do that either for free or very cheaply nowadays, especially if we know the right people to help with the formatting, in my case.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of whoever you know. And I don't mean take advantage and like use people up, because you can offer services to people as well.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of exchange of services that can be done, but definitely lean on your community and see where you can help them and they can help for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, can you share a few tips about social media marketing on Twitter, now X, from your newer release, Reader? I tweeted him a writer's guide to social media marketing on Twitter, X.
I think the main main thing to do with Twitter in particular, but with all social media platforms, is just to be very sure of what you want your place on it to be. There's not really a lot of point to going onto Twitter and just posting about anything willy-nilly and sticking links to sites that take the reader away from Twitter. You need to really not plan out every single post that you're going to do for the next 6 months or something like that, but be aware of exactly who you are wanting to attract with your posts. What are you wanting to put out into the world? What are you selling? You're selling yourself. Okay, is it just yourself? Is it your books? Is it your YouTube channel if you've got one? Is it a course that you're selling? And make sure that you stay in that niche as much as possible. I mean, nobody's going to mind if you put one random post about something that you just really like, but you are going to get much better interaction if people know what to expect from you, and if, more importantly, the algorithm knows what to expect from you. But my absolute top tip, the top thing that I wish people would do on all social media is, please, your profile picture, put it of yourself. Okay, I don't care how cute your cat is or your dog or what beautiful cake that you made or how amazing the sunset was outside your house last week. People want to see you. They want to connect with you. Yeah, if you really don't feel comfortable with putting your face on social media, then maybe like an avatar or something that kind of will resonate with people and will give the vibe of what you're like could work as well. But just putting something random, it doesn't create that connection with people. People want to see what you look like and they want to know about you.
I think that's really, really important too in this time when now we're having all this AI, because people want to know there's a real person behind the writing, the words, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, I have bad news for you on that one, as at how easy it is to simulate and get fake images that you could then use to become a bot. Anyways.
Well, no, that's been happening over time anyways.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people have put up pictures of someone else and said that was them. Yeah,
yep.
It's happened over time. But I think it's just more important to have a picture of you versus like your cat or dog, just so, so that they feel that they're connecting with a human.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Well, Emma, what marketing have you tried that you would never do again?
I don't think that I would necessarily agree to some of the kind of author appearances that I have agreed to over the years. I think it's lovely to meet readers, but it's important to make sure that if you're going out of your way and you're spending your time doing something, particularly when you're kind of going out in the public and you need to get there and get back, make sure that it's worth your time. So going to a random event where there might mainly be romance readers, for example, if you're a sci-fi writer, you're probably not going to get many sales. You're not going to get many people following you on social media and stuff like that. So I've done some library events that I was invited to, for example, and everybody was really lovely, but some of them were clearly not readers of my genre. And while they maybe wanted to know about my writing journey, they were never going to buy my books. They were never going to follow me on any of my social media or kind of be interested in following up with what was going on with me. I think so it probably wasn't worth my time. So the tip is rather long-winded way of saying just really think about what you're committing to and making sure that it's worth your time and your energy.
Well, you kind of answered my next question a little bit. But do you have any other, like, if a self-published author could only do one thing for marketing, what would that one thing be? What would you tell them to do?
I would say go on one social media, which is the one that you believe that most of your readers will be on, and spend your time doing that social media platform properly and well. Set yourself up with a strategy, work out what your brand is going to be and who you are trying to attract. You need to imagine your ideal reader, the person who is going to be desperate to read your book, and work out how you are going to get their attention, what platform is best for that, and what should you be posting.
Oh, I failed that one. So, I honestly don't think that any of my social media is set up for readers. As much as I want it to be, most of my stuff is all for writers. So it's like,
yeah, it's hard to find that distinction, because I think nobody wants to be posting about their book all the time, because people will get bored of just seeing that. So what else do you do? Well, okay, most writers are also readers. So we're going to share about other books. But then you're just promoting other writers, which is lovely, but it's kind of not why you're there on the social media platform, is it? I think our friend Estelle van der Velde, she has some really interesting things to say about that. And she gets really, really frustrated when she sees authors doing that, because she's like, you're supposed to be promoting yourself and your own work, not everybody else.
Well, I've kind of resigned is not the right word, because it signifies like something negative. But I've kind of come to the conclusion, I guess, maybe that although my social media platforms may not be set up strictly for my readers, it's mostly for writers. I really like the spaces I'm in. I really like the community. I love the connection. So I don't think I could continue on without having that. I mean, yeah, sure, I can continue on. It's really hyperbole there. Can't say that word. But yeah, I really do like the community. So I would continue doing it. So, all right, well, let's transition from your publishing to your writing life and your work. So what does your typical writing life look like? Do you plan to write for a set period of time every day, have weekly, monthly, yearly word count goals? And this is like a perfect time to be asking because we're in NaNoWriMo as we're filming this. So
things are looking a little different at the moment because of NaNoWriMo. So I will be spending more time writing. I'm not a full-time anything, honestly. I think when people hear the term full-time writer, you think of somebody who almost writes 9 till 5, and that's what they spend their whole day doing. I don't do that at all, to be honest. I do lots and lots of different things, but it certainly doesn't add up to a 9 to 5 job. And my writing definitely has to fit around other things to do with my family, mainly. I'm not a morning person at all. I'm completely terrible in the morning. I can get up, I just don't function well. So there's no point to me trying to write early in the morning or do anything that requires that amount of brain power. So I tend to settle down to writing after lunch, get the dogs walked, get kind of housework and stuff done in the morning. And then I can kind of settle down and do some writing. But especially during NaNoWriMo, I find that I tend to write the most between about 10 o'clock at night and midnight. And it's because that's when I go into panic mode, because I realize that I've been messing around and fiddling around with words all day, and I haven't been like properly focused on actually getting words out. So for example, I've written for a couple of hours today, but I think I've only got about 400 new words because I was rereading what I wrote yesterday and tweaking it and thinking about things. I'm a big thinker. I'm not a fast writer at all. There's a lot of thinking that goes on. Not all of it makes sense. So yeah, about 10 o'clock, I begin to panic, especially during NaNoWriMo, that I haven't written enough. And that's when I kind of settle down and I actually get a word in.
It reminds me of when I was teaching and I would tell my students, write their essays ahead of time, sit on it for a day, come back to it. And they're like, no, I do better when it's like the last minute. Now I've got to get the essay done. So I don't live that way either. Ben shaking his head. I'm like, yeah. That was you.
Writing it right before school, the night before.
I'm the opposite.
I used to do my art homework. We had a week to do it. And I used to be doing it in the morning as the homework monitor was coming around to pick it up because I hated art homework so much. I'd be there underneath the desk frantically trying to draw something.
Nope. I'm the exact opposite. I would get everything done and then go do whatever else. But I needed to get it done. Otherwise, I couldn't, go through my day. But can you share a few tips about writing for a Nano, or what's the one in April? Nano Camp Nano. There we go. From your newest release, Write, Eat, Sleep, Repeat, 30 days, 50,000 words, How to Win NaNoWriMo.
So I take quite a holistic approach to NaNoWriMo, and I'm very aware of my own limitations and when I work best and how I work best. So, for example, I know that I can't write early in the morning. I know that I can't write if I'm surrounded by mess or if I've got a lot of other stuff on my mind. So it's important for me to clear those things out. Yeah, work out when you work best, how you work best. So it's really important to be aware of when you work best and where you work best. So maybe it would help if you get out of the house and you go to a coffee shop or something like that. Personally, that doesn't work for me because I find it too distracting. But I don't like it to be completely silent. I like to be in the middle of the house because I'm also really nosy and I don't want to miss anything that happens. And know that there might be days when you're not able to write. Things come up, especially like, how thoughtless of it was Thanksgiving in the middle of NaNoWriMo. Come on. That was could the Pilgrims not have chosen a better time to do this? So that I know that's really, really awkward for people in the US doing NaNoWriMo, especially if they've got family that they're going to visit. So sometimes you just have to look at the days in November and just go, okay, I'm not going to be able to write much at all on this day, and this day, and accept that's going to happen, and then work your word count out for the other days, taking out those days, and just work around things like that.
Nice. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on next and when you think it'll come out?
Yeah, so my Nano project it's called A Scottish Christmas at the moment, but that is just a working title, and it is my Christmas book for next year. So it's all just coming together at the moment, but it's about a young woman called Rose who ends up going to Scotland to work for a rather handsome Scottish laird on his estate, helping him to set up Christmas. For some reason, he doesn't like Christmas, and she is determined to find out why. And guess what? They're going to fall in love. So that's going to be out next Christmas. And then as soon as I've finished NaNoWriMo, I'm going to get back to my Regency book, which I began during Camp Nano. And I am really, really looking forward to getting back into that Regency world and hopefully finishing that off by the end of January. That one I am going to be querying at some point next year. So I'm not sure when it will be published yet.
Now it's time for something completely different. We would love to do a round of rapid fire questions where you answer each question as quickly as possible. Are you up for it?
Yep.
Cool. Then what comes first for you? The characters, the settings, or plot?
Characters always come first.
Are you a morning or a night writer?
Night writer.
Planner, pantser, plantser.
I think I'm a planner, but I'm actually not, because I don't plan that well. So I'm probably more like a plantser.
You want to be a planner.
I do want to be a planner. I'm just not very good at it.
Coffee, tea, and I'm going on a third option of hot chocolate.
Definitely not hot chocolate. Depends on the time of day. If I could only choose one, tea.
Complete the sentence. The best thing about writing is
Working from home.
First thought when you got your first 1-star review.
Oh, bum.
What's your favorite book to write?
At the moment, it's my Regency book. That's because it's something completely different. And I have written quite a few contemporary romances now. So it was really nice to be writing something in a different era.
what was your least favorite book to write?
My least favorite book to write was A Christmas Truce, which is the book that's just come out, because I got about half of the way through and realized that it was a complete mess and I didn't know what to do at all. So thankfully, my editor was amazing, and I sent her what I had, and she told me in no uncertain terms that my hero was awful, and that no one would like him, and that he was the problem. So I fixed him, and to make her happy, I set it at Christmas, and now I quite like it. Now I'm happy with it. I just didn't like it when I was writing it.
When you said that, I was like, that's a great way to, boost your book sales right now. I don't like my book that's out right now.
It's a good book. I promise. It's a really good book. Check out the Amazon.
It was the
reviews.
process of writing it that you didn't like.
It was the process of writing it.
Yeah, the end product is good. All right.
Really, really good.
Your
Please buy it.
favorite romance novel ever?
It is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I love that book. It's been made into a Netflix film, which is pretty good. Was it an Amazon? It might be an Amazon film, actually, but the book is amazing.
Thank you for answering all of our questions. Before we wrap up, can you please tell our listeners where they can find you and purchase your books?
Yes, you can find me on my YouTube channel. I am Emma Bennet on YouTube, and my books are all available on Amazon as ebooks, most of them as paperbacks as well. And I think most of them are on Kindle Unlimited if you have that.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining us and giving your insight and experience on romance writing, on nonfiction writing, on prepping for NaNoWriMo, which hopefully everyone who's watching this has successfully completed and or is prepping to do so for Camp Nano. You can catch us next week for our next tip or trick of the week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You can catch us next week with our next tip or trick. Sorry. You can catch us next week with our next tip. One more sentence. Come on.
Thank you so much to our incredible listeners and viewers for joining us on our exploration of everything self-publishing. We hope you found our podcast to be a treasure trove of insights and inspiration. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform or thanks on our YouTube episodes. Don't forget, you can catch all of our past episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms. And if you'd like to connect with us, drop us a line at selfpubishingtipstricks@gmail.com. Keep writing, keep publishing, and we'll see you next time.